Good morning, all of you once again, students.
Good
Very
morning,
good
ma'am.
morning to
Good morning,
all
ma'am.
of
Good
you.
morning, ma'am.
So this is
Good
and I
morning,
welcome.
ma'am.
Yeah, I welcome Lakshmi, and I thank you for accepting our invitation for being a guest lecturer here today. And girls, so this is basically we are arranging in your beginning of your MBA for the first year students, and also for the senior students. Also, this is going to be very helpful, and you'll have a clarity of thought once you know what kind of opportunities are there in front of you if you want to go for finance as your specialization. And after, I hope we'll be definitely giving a kind of clarity of thought about proceeding for 2 years of stay here, which direction we have to go. And I welcome Dr. Lakshmi to proceed with the lecture.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for your words. I'm hoping that the presentation will be a kind of a guidepost for the students to select or choose what is it that they want to do in future with their with the degree that they're going to get and the career plans that they're having for themselves.
Ma'am, 1 second. Now I
Yeah.
request J. Swati, Assistant Professor, to introduce our today's guest speaker, Dr. B. Lakshmi Madam.
Good morning, one and all.
Swati.
It, Good morning, one and all. It is my privilege to introduce our today's guest speaker, Dr. B. Lakshmi, Assistant Professor, NIPER, Hyderabad. She is a commerce graduate with an MBA Finance. She is a National Stock Exchange certified in derivatives, capital markets, depositories, financial market modules. She has about 12 years of working experience in industries, research, and academics. During her tenure at Center for Urban Governance Administrative Staff, College of India, she had coordinated with UNICEF India, Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation, Government of India. She was awarded by Ellen Gupta Gold Medal for highest score in intermediate. She is interested in various research areas like corporate finance, financial decision making, social cost benefit analysis, corporate social responsibility, behavioral finance. She also published and presented various papers related to finance case studies in national and international seminars and workshops, and also attended many workshops. Uh, Thank you, ma'am. Once again, I welcome you for the session.
Thank you, ma'am, for all those kind words for me. Thank you. So can I start presenting the slides now?
Yeah,
Yes,
ma'am. Yeah. Ma'am, 1 second. Girls, I
Yeah.
request all of you to mute yourself. Ma'am, you can take over the session, ma'am.
Yeah. Is the slide visible?
yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. I was told, to tell them about career path after MBA Finance, and towards the ending of the presentation, I've covered more or less what are the different areas where students can look up to, where they can join and make a difference. So yeah, I'm going to speak about career path after MBA. There's a host of opportunities awaiting, not just the finance guys, but also the marketing and all the other specializations that are there in MBA. So I am an assistant professor and I'm heading the Department of Pharmaceutical Management in National Institute of Pharmaceutical Education and Research in Hyderabad. Um, so I wanted to start away right away with this session. I hope it can be an interactive session where I can ask questions to these students, ma'am.
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah. So all of you are budding managers. A couple of you are in the first years, and a few of you are in the second year MBA. So you have chosen to do this MBA course, and definitely you have some idea of what you want to do after MBA. So I have listed a few options here. What do you want to do after MBA? And the options I gave are, most of you would want to earn good money, make good money. Some of you might have some entrepreneurial traits in you, wherein you are wanting to create a business opportunity and then employ people. So that's an entrepreneurial trait that you may be having. Some of you may be having an idea of making some change to your society. Okay, so doing something towards a society, a societal responsibility mindset. And then definitely all of you can be standard setting, be the standard setters or create benchmarks in whichever field you are choosing to get into, whether it's an entrepreneurship that you want to start, or you're getting into a service organization, or you're getting into a defined business role where your goal is to exceed and grow in the organization. So you can share if you have any other goals that you are aspiring to after MBA other than these four. Any students?
Girls, ma'am has asked some question. Respond to it.
No, ma'am, other than these four, we don't have nothing to do because all of these are covered in these points itself.
Okay. Okay, fine. So anybody, anything which is majorly a goal and others are not being looked at, like mainly majority of the students normally whom I interact with, when students come into the MBA course here also, the first question that I ask them is, why did you choose MBA? And mostly the answer that I get from them is, we want to make good money. So nobody comes, majority of them come with a mindset to make money. Very few, one or two students tell me that, yeah, they want to be entrepreneurs, they want to start something of by themselves. So I'm expecting that will be the trend across any B school where students join and they join with that motive that they'll get into good jobs which fetch them good money. So where will you be? Where you will be tested now? It's everybody has the same goal. Everybody wants to get a dream role in a dream company. Some of you might want to get into some MNCs where finance is one of the verticals there, and some of you might be looking at other careers. Couple of you could also be looking at pursuing higher degrees after MBA. But then there are certain points where you will be checked and tested and verified whether you are suitable to a certain role or not. So what are those areas where the companies which are trying to recruit or people who are trying to employ you will be looking at? One is your capacity to learn. So once you have earned an MBA degree, it doesn't mean that's the end of all the learning that you had. You've learned, you have earned the degree, and in the process you have learned certain concepts. But the application of concepts is what is more important once you get into the industry. And then, so from the industry perspective, what they look at is, what is your capacity to learn? So it doesn't mean that after having completed an MBA degree, how can they still be testing my learning capacity? Learning capacity in the sense, whatever you have learned from the textbook or from the course curriculum could be different from what you actually have to implement as a part of your job there. So they will look at your adaptability also. So this learning is not just learning the skill sets, they'll also look at how well are you able to adapt the knowledge that you have to the role that you're going to deliver in the sector that you have been selected or you've been placed. So that is one area where they will be testing your capacity to learn. The next one will be your capacity to think. So every time it will not be an ideal situation. We always talk about whenever you look at a theory, you look at what are the postulates or the assumptions based on which the theory was proposed. So normally all these assumptions are very categorical, wherein we assume that the markets are homogeneous. Everybody has the knowledge of everything that's happening in the market, which is not the case in the real world. So in the real world, when you encounter a problem, they will look at your capacity to think, your capacity to address the issue at hand, and your capacity to take it forward instead of being stuck at a certain place. So that is another area where you will be tested. Now, this testing could be a part of your assessment when they are trying to conduct a selection process to select you for a role, or it could also be an on-job testing that they do. When you're delivering different parameters of your job, they'll also be looking at all these aspects. So how well are you able to turn around a situation? How well are you able to adapt a situation and then move forward so that the work is not affected, and also the whatever is there, required to be delivered is being delivered on time. And then your capacity to act. So capacity to act is, you should be able to make a decision if required. You may not be a leader per se, but then in your defined role, you still have that flexibility to make a decision. The right decision is required to be made at the right time. It's not that once the time is over, then you make a right decision also, that will not have any impact on the work. So at that particular moment when it is required, if you are able to apply your mind and then make the correct decision, that is what you will be tested for also in the job roles that you would be pursuing in future. And then your capacity to relate to the consumers, relate to the customers, even if you're in finance function. For example, if you get into a corporate where a finance MBA person can get into a role of a business analyst. Now, as a business analyst, you will be interacting with the customers who are external to your company. So these customers will give you their specifications if they want something to be developed. For example, let me assume that if you get into an analyst role in a software company, an MBA finance person can be selected to a business analyst role in a software company. So as an analyst, your job role would define you to interact with the customers. The customer could be a banker from your own country or from a country outside India, who will give you the requirements that they have. If that customer, if they are trying to build a wealth management portal, and they will give you all the requirements that they have. Like if they want to ensure that the customers are able to place an order for a bond option or an equity option or an equity linked note, or for a equity linked any other derivative that they have developed. So they would want you to understand their requirements. And so you will be a person who will be interacting with the customers, and you will prepare a document which is called as business requirement documents. It's called as BRD. So based on your BRD, once your BRD is approved by the client and also by your own manager, now this BRD has to now translate into a web page. Now that is the requirement. The web page should capture all the requirements that the client has told you, and it should also conform to the currency standards. Let's say the client is an outside bank, a bank outside India. For instance, I was a business analyst with a company which was called as Polaris when I worked there. Now it is Virtusa Polaris. So as a business analyst, I was, I wrote a business requirement document for Development Bank of Singapore. So as a part of that, I had to interact with the client, and then I had to understand their requirements and prepare this business requirement document. Now, once this document was okayed by the business partners of the bank and also of our company, I was the one who had to make the development team understand that these are the requirements, these are the pages required, and these are all the fields that are required. See, again, I'm telling you, I'm not from a software background. I'm a proper commerce graduate from an MBA and an MBA in finance, and I've done my PhD in finance only. But then I was able to, I have to explain, these are the requirements of the clients, and based on the explanation that I give to the development team, the software development team, those guys developed the web pages. And once the web pages were ready, I was again, I had to test those pages and verify whether the client requirements are matched with with whatever page was developed for them. So that is another kind of role that you can get into. So, all these aspects where your capacity to think, your capacity to, learn, because when you learn about derivatives, maybe the MBA second year students can relate more to this. So there are very few derivatives that we look at, but then derivatives, the word itself means that, you can develop an instrument with many different options, many different features. So that is what had happened with Development Bank of Singapore also. They had developed their own instruments which they wanted to make available to their own clientele, to be on the trading platform. So that is what we worked on. So these are the different areas that you will be tested, whether your learning capacity, your thinking capacity, your decision making capacity, and also your capacity to relate to what's happening in the firm vis-a-vis the knowledge that you have and the experience that you bring to the test. Okay, so for you to be ready for all that testing, definitely you should have your learning resources in place. And all these learning resources are now a tap away. You have everything on your mobile, on your laptop. Internet-enabled options is what are available to you. But the learning resources actually start foremost from your teachers who are actually handling these subjects for you, the academicians. It could be your teachers, your professors who are handling these subjects for you in your college, or it could be some other resource person who's addressing you like as a guest faculty or a guest lecturer, or you could be attending some other seminars organized outside. So all these people will be your learning resources, because every person has a different set of knowledge to bring forth and a different set of skill sets that they can share with you. Caselets. I'm sure as management students, you all must be familiar with different caselets that are used in all the subjects. Case studies are utilized as one of the pedagogy in major B schools, and all the MBA colleges also adapt these case studies. So when you're doing a case study, you actually take up the role of that decision maker, and then you think from that angle. If I encounter a situation in this capacity, what should be my decision, and how will I react to this? How will I handle this case? Or how will I, what difference will I make to the situation? And then the practitioners. So practitioners are people from the industry who are actually managing, finances in maybe companies, or making finance related decisions across the gamut. It could be an investment banking sector, or it could be an insurance sector, or it could be a government related agency where they are looking at finances. So all these people who are actually making these decisions and ensuring that things are going smoothly, or they're addressing different problems, those are the practitioners who are also your learning resources. And then learning from the best scenarios, the best cases. So that's what I think that got covered with this line there. Okay, so any questions so far? Actually,
No,
this
ma'am.
online
No,
class.
ma'am.
Yeah, please. Okay, that means it's no, ma'am, is what I heard. Yeah, that's okay. So now that you are at the doorstep of industry, a couple of you who are in the second year, I think another 4 months, and then you're out of your degree, and then you're ready to take on the career path, or join the industry. So what should you be familiar with? You should definitely be knowing the industry patterns or the industry history, whichever company you are wanting to get into, or whichever company is calling you for an interview per se. You should be well read about that company. You should be read about the industry that to which that company belongs to. It could be a real estate company, it could be a pharma company, it could be a services company, it could be a BFSI, a banking, finance, insurance sector company, or any other company, or an insurance sector company. So you should be well aware of the company itself in the first place, and also the industry to which that company belongs to, because the questions that will be posed to you will be from those areas only. So read the growth of the company and about the promoters. So all this information is available. Is it available online, or should you again do a different search for this? Where do you get this information about the industry or company?
Online, ma'am.
Online, also specifically, you let's say if you visit the website of a company, where do you get such information? There are so many menus which are available on a company's website. Any idea? Any idea
About
where?
past or
ma'am.
achievements of the company, ma'am.
about us or achievements of the company. Okay, what about the annual report of the company? Where do you find this annual report in the company's website? There'll always be a menu item which talks about information for investors. So under that tab, you will get this annual report of the company. And in the annual report of the company, you will get to know who are the promoters, what was the company's business all about, and how did it grow or evolve over a period of time. Because the company might have started in a certain area, but it may no longer remain in that area. It may have moved out of that area and moved out into different other areas or expanded. So all that information is captured in the annual report of the company, which also has the accounting information where you can look at the pattern, the ratios, the different ratios that you can calculate and look at how the company is vis-a-vis its liquidity or its turnover ratios or its profitability ratios. So all those aspects of the company you will get to know when you look at the annual report of the company. And the annual report also gives you a comparative statement, comparative profit and loss statement or comparative balance sheet, which will tell you what was the company's growth in this year compared to the previous year same sector, previous year same quarter, or semi-annual performance. So you will get an year-on-year performance comparison quarterly base when you look at these annual reports, because all the comparative statements are also presented in this annual report. I'm sure you must have looked at these annual reports as a part of your financial management course, where you learn about ratio analysis. And then respect the company for its achievements. So when a company is coming to place you and they have shortlisted you for an interview, so you should look up all these aspects. As I said, you should learn a lot about what the company has done, what it has achieved, and what is it set to do in the future also, because annual reports also have indicators of what are their future plans, what are their future investment plans, and how are they planning to utilize the available funds. So all this information is also captured in the annual reports of the company. Respect the culture of the organization. Once you are a part of the of an organization, definitely you should understand what are the do's and don'ts there. Some rules are written and some are unwritten rules that you need to follow and adapt to those the ethos of the organization. Always you need to respect the boss, because they give us the guidelines on what exactly are you supposed to be doing, and definitely you should try to be a change agent. You don't have to try and change the company per se. A change agent in the sense, in the role that is assigned to you, instead of doing it in the regular way, you can always be innovative at your own level. You can think differently of how to do that job. You can think differently of how to execute it well. So that is where you can be a change agent. So what are the corporate expectations from Young India? There's a lot of emphasis on entrepreneurship these days, also intrapreneurship. So within the organization, how creative can you be is what is being more focused on or looked at or more encouraged these days. And how well do you execute these plans? And what is your determination to succeed, your will to succeed? That is what is being focused, and also the expectation from the younger generation, from the budding managers. So when people are looking at your resume, when they're trying to assess you for taking you into their organization, they will look at certain aspects like you all have a project work to do. So if you can actually do a real-time project work, and then when you're speaking about it, when you're speaking about the project work that you have undertaken, that itself gives them an understanding of what kind of skill sets you have, and how you have been delivering the role that is assigned to you. So they take a lot of hints and cues from all that. So your resume really matters a lot, and what you project in your resume also matters a lot. So you will never be don't expect you to be spoon fed. Nobody will do that spoon feeding now in the industry. You are supposed to be a self learner. So this is also something like that. Learn self-help. So you will have to help yourself if you want to grow. You will have to work on yourself. If you want to grow, it's not that you will have to work on somebody else. You will have to work on your own skill sets, your own knowledge, your own attitude. All these matter a lot when you're getting into the the careers, the opportunities that are available in the industry. So coming to the career opportunities, as I said, there are seamless opportunities, boundless opportunities which are available in the financial management, ranging from banking to insurance. So it could be a corporate finance role or a commercial banking role or a role into financial planning. And not forgetting the insurance part. Insurance is there in all aspects of our life. Then investment banking and yes, money management. So these are the different sectors which can be looked at as prospective, career opportunities for the MBA finance grads. So I'll take you through each of these sectors and the kind of roles that we may be looking at. So in the corporate finance sector, normally the job description will be something like this: to work for a company to help it find money to run the business, grow the business, and make acquisitions and plan for the firm's financial future. I just gave you a very a broad picture of what could be the JD like. It will get into more specifics when they look at specific roles. So the roles which are there in the corporate finance area are a financial analyst role. As a financial analyst role, you would be the major job would be looking at the balance sheets of different companies and then analyzing the balance sheets vis-a-vis the different ratios that you must have learned. As I mentioned, the liquidity ratios or the turnover ratios or the profitability ratios. So these ratios or the capital ratios. So these ratios will be looked at, and then the company will be assessed based on its performance and on all these areas. And why do you think we'll have to do this kind of an analysis? After you analyze and get to understand the ratio, the interpretation is more important. So when you compare ratio of one company to another company, that's when you understand which company is better in the same sector as compared to the other company, and then that can help you to make an investment decision. So that is how a financial analyst role would be. And then coming to a tax manager's role, it's everything to do with taxes. And nowadays, tax management roles, the work that they do is all outsourced from outside countries to India now. So sitting in India, you may be managing the tax payment part for a person who is somewhere outside India. So for that, you need to understand the tax regulations of that country and not just understand the Indian tax regulations, because you will be filing the tax returns for somebody who is sitting outside India. So you need to understand their tax regulations. You also have to understand the global standards with respect to taxation. And then as a credit manager, here you could be assessing a company for its credit worthiness, or you could be assessing an individual for his or her credit worthiness. So normally a credit manager, when he is doing this assessment, it would be in a situation where a company or an individual has approached them for a loan. So essentially a banking sector role this is. So where a credit manager will be looking at the credit worthiness of either the company or the individual, and based on the credit rating. Now, what is a credit rating? Is there a credit rating available for individuals? Are you aware of anything like that, the students? You must be getting, all of you I'm sure must be having mobile phones, and sometime or the other you must be getting something to do with the credit rating. This is your so-and-so score, and based on this, you can take a loan of this amount. Did you get
Yes,
such?
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yeah, so there's a specific term given to that. Do you remember what is that term? A score. What score is that is looked at?
Credit score, ma'am.
Credit score, or there's another term that I was looking for. It is called a CIBIL score. Have you heard of that term?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am. CIBIL
Yes, ma'am.
score.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am.
Yeah. So as a credit manager, so you as individuals, you and me, even if we don't have any loan liability, even then there'll be a CIBIL score against our name. So whenever we approach a bank for a loan, the first thing the bank will do is it'll get a report, a CIBIL report on our name and see what is our credit standing is. I mean, are we worth extending a loan to? The only reason is they want to ensure that there's no NPA after they give a loan to us. What is meant by an NPA?
Non-performing asset, ma'am.
Yes. So if a loan becomes bad for a bank, it is treated as a non-performing asset. So that's where these bankers or any institution which gives any loan to individuals or companies, they are more focused on understanding the credit worthiness of their clientele, and so the credit scores again form an important part. So you as a credit manager should have these skill sets to understand what is it that you have to assess when you have to rate a company or an individual for their credit worthiness. So you will have to look at all these parameters as a credit manager. Then as a treasurer, it will be more of, how do you maintain the funds and how do you disperse these funds? So this will be a higher role where, it will come at maybe with an experience of at least 10, 12 years in the industry, and then you will get to that role of managing a treasury management role. And then benefits officer is somebody who will be looking at again what kind of benefits can be extended. It could be benefits which are extended to the employees of the organization based on the different ranking that they are placed at or different hierarchy that they are placed at. What are the different benefits that could be extended to these employees is what is looked at by the benefits officer. A controller. Now, controller role is a very typical role. There are FinCon is how it's called as finance controllers. Now, these finance controllers, they'll be managing. They could be managing different geographies, or they could be managing a single geography, or they could be reconciling the accounts of a single company between different geographies. So that is the kind of role a controller has, and it's a huge task that they do. So, all your knowledge in finance will be helpful to get into these roles. Chief Financial Officer again requires a lot of experience and also more qualification. Maybe, they'll expect you to have a chartered accountancy or a chartered financial analyst, or a cost accountant qualification to get into that kind of a role of a Chief Financial Officer. So these are the roles that can be looked at in the corporate finance sector. Then coming to the commercial banking sector. Now, commercial banking, it provides banking services. Just give me a second. I just have to answer this call.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. So in the commercial banking space, the kind of roles that are available, they are a trainee analyst or a junior loan officer, or a senior corporate loan officer, or a deputy manager. So these are the roles, and they're the kind of experience that they're looking at. A fresher or a fresher with an MBA with 3 years or more than 3 years of experience based on the hierarchy of the role. So even when it comes to the commercial banking, the moment a loan term comes up again, they'll also assessing the credit worthiness of the individuals or the organizations that are approaching the bank for any type of loan that they want to extend. So all this again depends on the role that you get into. So as if you are getting into a junior loan officer, so you will be more looking at the working or the financials of the company and how well are they doing, whether the company is making profits in the past 3 years or not. If profits are being made, what is the average profit for these 3 years? Are the future revenues of the company promising? So all these aspects are looked at before a loan can be disbursed to a company, and a lot of documentation also involved when a loan has to be extended to a company or an individual. There are a lot of sureties or guarantees that are taken before a loan is advanced. And when a loan is applied for, 100% of loan is never granted. Again, there's a percentage which is offered to the applicant, and then the rest of it has to be managed by the applicant. So all these are your on-job learnings, and you will not get to know what should a loan officer do now during your course of MBA. But once you get into the job, that will be your on-job training or on-job learning that you will have as a part of your work. And then moving on, in the investment banking area also, you will have a lot of openings or opportunities. So as an investment banker, again, you will be assessing the cash flows and how to manage these cash flows, mostly during the mergers and acquisitions. You'll also be looking at the project financing, trading securities, and the derivatives aspect. So, the role that I talked about where I worked as a business analyst. So we had developed a wealth management platform for that bank, a Development Bank of Singapore. So that was an investment banking role that I was into. But the title that I was given was business analyst, and the job description, the job requirements were different. I was not actually trading on the platform. I was developing the page for them to trade their securities on that platform. So I was involved in that kind of a role. So there are numerous opportunities that you can look at when you're getting into this investment banking sector. It's a global sector. You're sitting here, as I said, you will be developing a platform or a trading platform for some bank or investment, investment company which is outside India, not necessarily an Indian company. So normally these companies, they recruit in the months of November and December, and the kind of skill sets that they look at is you should be good at your quants, and you should have good communication skills and analytical skills. And these days, Excel is what is more looked at. They are looking at how good are you with your execution in Excel, because everything that you do, whatever work you do, you'll have to do some analysis, and MS Excel is used extensively in all these jobs. And networking skills is a must in all of these jobs, because you need to interact with people, you need to talk to different set of people to get the different kinds of information, because that information is what you are going to work on. And then the next sector is the money management sector. So money managers hold stocks and bonds for institutional clients. Now, actually, there's a market also which is called as money market. But in money market, the trading happens. It's a day trade that happens. Any firm has some excess funds for a single day or for a few hours in a day. That money is invested in the money market. So money market is extremely, it's very, very volatile. Every day it keeps changing. Every day the demand changes. Every day the supply changes. And then people, and as I'm telling you, the institutional clients, they invest in money markets even for an hour or two. If they feel that they have excess money lying idle with them for 2 hours or even for a day or 2 days, they will invest that money into the money market. And they get a return. Instead of idle money, they get some return on that money. So that is what is money market all about. So in money management, again, the roles, the different jobs that are available could be a portfolio manager, investment advisory, a mutual fund analyst, a hedge fund trader. Now, portfolio manager, again, portfolio is, I'm sure you all understand that, a basket of securities is what is called as a portfolio from our textbooks. That's a definition given to a portfolio. But as a portfolio manager, you will be looking at portfolios of hundreds and thousands of investors, and each investor could opt for a different combination. Somebody will opt for an 80% debt and 20% equity. Somebody will opt for 100% debt. Someone wants, he's a high risk taker, he'll take 100% equity. Somebody wants to play mid, so they'll take 50% debt and 50% equity. So you will be managing the portfolios of so many investors. So therein you will have to have the knowledge of the sector, how the prices of these bonds or equities are moving in the market, and what kind of advice you can give them. So as an investment advisory, these investment advisors, they are always sitting on the trading window. They're observing what is the price movement of these equities or bonds, whether the price is moving up or down or it's stable. And then they also keep analyzing the financial accounts of the company, and based on their financial statement analysis and the movement of the securities price, they will be advising their clientele to either invest in a company, that means buy the shares of a company, or sell off the shares that they're holding off in that company, or hold on not to do anything for a certain period, because if there's a hike in the equity price, which is foreseen, then the investor will do good if he sells it at a later date rather than selling it at the current times. Similarly, a mutual fund analyst, he will be analyzing the performance of different types of mutual funds. Are you aware that in the mutual funds also there are different categories?
Yes, ma'am.
So there could be funds which are, which invest heavily on equity. There could be funds which invest heavily on only debt, funds which will invest heavily only on the government bonds, or funds which invest on some underlying security. So there could be gilt funds or equity funds or debt funds or balanced funds. That is how they are named, based on what type of security is that fund investing. And then there are a lot of these mutual fund players in the market also now. Every investment banking division also is having a mutual fund division which promotes different types of funds. And then again, you can also analyze the performance of these funds, based on which again you will be an advisor to your clients of which funds to be investing their money into and which funds to not to be investing into. Recently, every time there's a lot of change, and this mutual fund regulations undergo a lot of changes on a regular basis. And then, so as an analyst, you should be aware of what are these changes, which are happening, so that you can give a better advice to your clients. And then hedge fund traders. Hedge fund traders also requires a lot of experience for you to actually get into that role also. Now, for all these roles, the skills that are required are, you need to have a very broad understanding of business, and you should have some risk-taking ability, and you should also understand the risk-taking ability of your clients. And then you should have a strategy mindset to break into the business. Now, meaning, like, let's say if you are a mutual fund analyst, or you're managing a mutual fund for that matter, then you will be the decider of how much money is going into which equities. Now, when you're investing into equities also, they don't invest into equity of only one sector. They invest into equities of multiple sectors, so that the risk is mitigated. Let's say one sector is doing well and other sector is not doing so well. The risk is offset. Risk of bad performance in one sector is offset by good performance in another sector. So that's where you need to have the understanding of all these parameters to get into such roles. And as financial planners, you will be helping individuals to plan their financial futures. Like their requirements, like their retirement needs, or their needs for their any future domestic requirements that they may be having, their child's future child's education, child's settlement. All these aspects have to be planned in advance. So when people come to you as a financial planner, you will be acting as an advisor to them. So again, for such a role, you should have wonderful interpersonal skills, because you have to interact with those people. You will have to take understand what are their requirements. Only then you will be able to give them a better advice. And at the same time, you should have good understanding of investments, taxes, planning, and also you should be a very patient listener, because people sometimes tell you a lot of information, of which you will have to screen the information that is required for your advice to them. So you don't have to really process all the information. You should only pick and choose that information which is relevant for you to give an advice to them, a sound advice to them for their financial planning. And then insurance is another big sector. So which talks, there's a lot of risk for which we actually take an insurance. Different types of insurance are available, and then the scope is humongous in this sector also. the kind of roles that are available in the insurance sector are actuary roles, where actuary is a person who actually assesses what is the extent of damage, and then he decides how much can be made good, how much can the insurance company be paying for that kind of damage that is encountered by the client. Then as an insurance agent and an insurance broker, so these are the people who actually sell these insurance policies. You must have also encountered such people where, even when you go to open a bank account in any of these banks, like for example, when I was the other day going into HDFC Bank, parallelly as I was opening the account, somebody in the bank itself was selling me an insurance policy right away and giving me the benefits and whatnot of the policy. So that is one more role that you can look at: an insurance agent or a broker. A claims adjuster. This is more of an insider role where somebody has claimed that this is the loss that they've encountered. Actually, has given a different amount, and then somebody has to reconcile those two. If there's a mismatch, that will be the role of a claims adjuster. Service reps. So people have purchased insurance policy. They are paying the premium regularly, and now there's a situation where they require the insurance to be paid to them. So now then comes the role of a service rep, where he will try to assist the claimant to get the claim, to process his claim in time so that the claimant is not suffering. A loss control specialist. So here again, it's an insider role. Loss control specialist is more specific to the insurance company in which he's working. A risk manager and underwriter. Now, risk manager again dawns a role in these insurance companies. What do they do with all the premium that is paid to them? They'll have to invest this premium because that's how they grow the money. So this risk manager again, he's somebody who will decide on where the money has to be invested, and what is the riskiness of that investment, and what are the returns that can be expected from that kind of an investment. And then the underwriters are there whenever there's a shortfall for any investment. Underwriters is one of the players in these stock markets who come to the rescue of it could be an insurance company or a banking or a commercial banking company or an investment company. Underwriters play that role of fulfilling whatever is unpaid or unmet. So that is the role of an underwriter. More so, you get to see the role of an underwriter in an IPO, initial public offering. So whenever an issue is underpaid, that's where the underwriter comes up and he buys the unbought part of the issue, and so that the money need not be returned by the issuer company, by the issuing company to the equity, the people who have applied for the securities in that company. So that's the role of an underwriter. So that's about the different roles that you can get into in the finance sector. So any questions here?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so I think I've pretty much given them some fair idea, madam, about what are the different roles that they can get into when they're looking at the industry per se. So I have a few slides just to closing slides. Most people read history, many people teach history, but then very few create history. So you can create your own history. God is creator, God is the creator, but then you can always be a co-creator, because you can plan for what you want to do with your life, with your career, but you should be motivated enough to do that, and you should also make some informed decisions for that. So how do you make informed decisions? You should be well read, you should be well connected, and you should make a decision in consensus with everybody who are well wishers for you. So that is the end of my presentation, ma'am. So wishing you all flying colors. Thank you for this opportunity, madam.
Thank you, ma'am. One second. Girls, any questions?
Thank you,
Do you have
ma'am.
any doubts?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Any
you,
questions,
ma'am.
any
Thank you,
doubts?
ma'am.
You're welcome.
Girls, any doubts?
Thank you, ma'am, for the session.
So, I mean, if I have to give you my journey as an MBA finance grad, I started with teaching my career, but after 5.5 years in teaching, I moved into the industry as a business analyst, and that's where I worked. As I was telling you, worked with the Development Bank of Singapore, and that was completely different from what I learned in my MBA. Nobody taught me that a business requirement document will be something you will have to work on or you develop. So that is a learning that I had as a part of my job. And then I also did some financial testing there, which again I was not trained into. But it's not a difficult job. You know, as you do, you learn, and then you get along with it. And post that company, I moved into the government sector, where I actually conducted a host of workshops for different stakeholders, which was again not a part of my training in MBA finance. But then yes, we are MBA, so we are supposed to be managing things. So that's how, I mean, it's all been a learning journey for me.
Ma'am, sorry, I have a question, ma'am.
Yes, Vaishnavi.
Ma'am, how important is it to learn new courses like SAP, etc., to get finance jobs?
Okay, courses like SAP will give you, how important it is something it depends on what kind of, if you're specifically looking at getting into that kind of a role. SAP again has different modules in it. There's a finance module in it. There's a lending module in it. There's a balance sheet module in it. So you should know what module you should learn so that you will get an opportunity in that role. So definitely that will be an add-on for you. In addition to whatever courses you're doing, you can also get yourself certified. There's something called as NCFM. NCFM is NSE certified in financial markets. I've done those courses. You can also do those courses. They're all available online. You'll have to enroll for the course and give an exam, and post which you'll be a certified professional in maybe in financial market or in a derivative space. Or one of the finance areas. There are many certifications which are offered by NSE. So these certifications could be an add-on, which will increase your employability.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the suggestion.
Okay, Vaishnavi.
Ma'am, I do have a question. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes.
I'm Visa Lakshmi. Ma'am, any suggestions for you for non-finance students who are opting for MBA finance?
Non-finance students opting for MBA finance, meaning your minor is finance. Is that how I have to understand?
No, ma'am. Actually, I do come from a biotech background from BSc. So I don't have any knowledge in finance, but I just want to do finance so that I can bridge gap between the, like by the, why I want to do a research like why the cost of some medicines are high in price. So that what we can do to reduce the prices so that they are available to all the people who are in need.
That's nice, and there's nothing stopping you from doing a MBA in finance, Visa Lakshmi. So even if you're from a biotechnology background or any other background, it's not difficult. This course is not at all difficult. If you put your heart and mind, you can learn everything in finance also. Nothing is difficult.
So any suggestions from you, ma'am? Any suggestions?
On what front you want a suggestion? Like, you said you want to do a research on why certain things are priced high.
Yes.
On that front,
yes,
you can undertake a field research, and maybe you can get into costing of those products or services which are priced high. So once you look at the cost part, once you look at the costing, you will get costing to the level of material cost, labor cost, overheads cost, and what are the other costs incurred for that particular product which you want to research. So once you get into those, underlying parameters, that's when you'll understand why the cost is high of certain products and why it is not so in certain other products. And then you can do a comparative analysis.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Lakshmi, I have one question.
Yes.
Usually people can come from corporate background to teaching, but how is it possible for the teaching faculty to get into corporates? You got a chance, but it is very difficult to enter into corporate.
Yeah, that's true. But it's only a projection of the skills that matters, Shailaja. So even when I entered the company, I was taken in a different role. I was taken into a completely different role. Business development role is what I was taken into.
Okay.
But then then looking at my knowledge, I was also giving some training sessions there, because others are mostly engineering graduates who do this developing part of it, the software developers. So they were finding it difficult to understand when they have to develop a page. They should understand what is an equity, what's a bond, what's an equity linked investments. They were not able to understand all that. So then I was also into training those people, and when I was training, they understood that I understand all these parameters, so why not I get into that role of a business analyst? So it was not a direct entry into business analyst role for me also. I had to chart my way there.
Okay. Thank you so much. And are there any other certification courses which they can do apart from this, what you have suggested?
So certification courses, in the sense, what I am aware of is, NSE is offering these courses, even BSc is offering certain courses, where, if they are interested in a certain area, they can only get certified in that area. Even the insurance, provider, the insurance sector also is having certain courses where if they clear those courses, they are eligible to become an actuary. So that can also be an add-on course that they can look at if they're looking at getting into the insurance sector.
I mean, where should they search for these courses? Directly just log into those sites and...
Yes.
Yeah, are there any specific sites?
Specific sites, I'll be, and right now I don't have the information, but I know that these are offered by all the regulators. The insurance IRDA website, if you go, there are courses which are announced on their website, which can be pursued, and if they clear, they are certified that they are an actuary in the life sciences area, or they are an actuary in the vehicle. So because actuaries are required in different insurances. So for all those, you need to be qualified as an actuary, and only then you can become, or get into that role.
Okay. Right. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Good to have you. It's a very educative. Ramya, take over.
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah. Ma'am, I will be presenting the vote of thanks, as Director ma'am is a bit busy with a meeting, ma'am. So it's my privilege and honor to propose vote of thanks on behalf of management, staff, and students of AMSOI. I thank our chief guest speaker, Dr. B. Lakshmi ma'am, for accepting our invitation in spite of her busy schedule. I thank our director ma'am for organizing such an interactive guest lectures. Dr. B. Lakshmi ma'am, thank you for such an interactive, insightful, and informative session. And you have put light on the skills required for career development after MBA and the different career opportunities in finance, like investment banking, money management, insurance, etc. Thank you so much, ma'am. It was a nice, good, informative session for all our students, ma'am. Thank you.
I hope so. Thank you for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to interact with your students.
We can have some more guest lectures on the subject also, whatever papers they have in our MBA.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
So we'll inform you 1 week in advance so that you can make time and come back.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so thank you so much for accepting the invitation.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I thank all the students for patient listening. I hope they are there, because with the online platform, we don't know if they're there or if you're just speaking to somebody out there. So thank you for this opportunity again, and all the best to all the students there.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you. Shailaja, I'll be logging off now. I have to.
Thank you, ma'am. No problem.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.